You want to tell me your name and why you're here?
Yeah, I'm Tristan Krause from Amherst, Massachusetts.
And what are you doing in Alaska?
We're on the RIIN program. I did some shadowing in Bethel, Alaska, and in Antioch as well, which is a village nearby.
And was it anything like what you expected?
I didn't know what to expect, so it was definitely different than the shadowing I'd done in Massachusetts and Columbus. It was what struck me was how much more dominion providers had over what they could do, because sometimes the specialist isn't around to perform what they need to do. So a lot of people had to step out of their, I guess maybe even out of their comfort zone to treat patients when there was an emergency situation. So that was what surprised me the most.
So like what kind of situations did you see while you were there?
Let's see. I didn't see this one, but I heard about. So there was this one person who had a lot of pressure. They pretty much needed emergency surgery to relieve pressure in their leg, but they didn't have a surgeon. So the family care doc had to cut open their leg and relieve the pressure in order to buy them enough time to get to Anchorage. So just an example like that. That's stories like that is because they were never trained to do that. So it's kind of exciting that they would get to do that at a moment's notice, and that's what appeals to me a lot about working there.
Great. So like what was your background before going out to Alaska?
I'm a pre-med student at Ohio State. Just graduated, applying for medical school right now, taking a year off. So this was some great shadowing experience, and I was always interested in rural medicine, just to get a feel of what it was like. So it was exciting to get to finally see what that was.
Have you ever done any rural medicine anywhere else?
Not really. I did like a shadowing trip to Ecuador for a week during spring break. It was rural medicine there, so that was a good taste. But this was definitely, the interactions I got to have with the providers here was definitely unique. I got to talk to a lot of people, have some great conversations, and get to know what life is like practicing rural medicine for people who have moved there.
So before you went out to Bethel, you had about a week in Anchorage, talking about Alaskan cultures and things like that. Was that helpful? Did the culture in Bethel catch you by surprise? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't catch me by surprise. There were some helpful things we learned, like the nonverbal cues, like a raise of the eyebrows means yes, and a scrunch of the nose means no. So that I actually did see some of that, and I would not have known at all if we hadn't gone over that. So that was definitely helpful. As far as Anchorage, whenever I was talking to people in Anchorage and I said I was going to Bethel, they kind of put their nose up to it and were not excited about me going there. They said it was kind of like a bad place, and it's really not. I don't think they've ever been to Bethel, because Bethel's they're really nice. Everyone there is really nice. It's a great community. It has its problems, but so does everywhere. And I mean, I felt very safe and had a great time meeting the people there, and I think people should not be afraid of it or dislike it so much without trying it out.
So you had a bit of free time while you were in Bethel. You're not job shadowing. What did you find to do?
What did we do? We went berry picking was the name of the game out there. They had it's blueberry season, and just the very end of the salmon berries or the cloudberries. So we were out picking berries, having an awesome time. We went fishing, which was really fun. We got to watch them use their nets out there. They caught 20 fish at a time. That was really exciting. Went to a fish camp, which is like a tent off the river somewhere, and we got to see that. So that was really cool. Pretty much just like the subsistence lifestyle. We got to see how people live there, like that, and what they eat, what they do, and so that was really exciting. The food was great. So.
And before you went out to Bethel, we had a few days in Seward as well. Did a cruise. We did some hiking. What was your favorite part of the whole program so far?
It's about the Seward part or the overall?
The whole RIIN
okay,
program.
So professionally, I liked talking with the providers in Bethel the most. That was the most interesting to me, to see what life is like as a healthcare provider in that kind of environment. As far as having a great time, the climbing to go see the Exo Glacier in Seward was incredible. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. That's an amazing hike. So that would definitely, if future people are interested in this, they should definitely do those two things.
Great. Do you have any particular advice for future RIIN students?
Yeah, I would say don't write off anything, because the reality of it is that it can be so different. For me anyway, it was so different from what I expected. Any expectations I had would have been wrong. So I just go up with an open mind and don't say no to anything. that you don't know about, because it might end up being a great time.
Great. Any last words?
No, I would definitely recommend the program. It was so much fun. It was a great time to spend, a great way to spend July. So, anyone who's interested, I would definitely recommend it.
So, what's your name?
I'm Amanda. I am a graduated senior from University of Washington, but I'm from Anchorage, so I decided to do this so I can get out of Anchorage and explore everything beyond. Yeah.
Cool. And what's your area of interest?
I was choosing between family medicine and pediatrics, but after going out to Bethel and Antioch, I definitely want to do family medicine because with family medicine, you get to do everything, which includes pediatrics. So I think I'm pretty set on family medicine after experiencing all of that.
Great. Mm-hmm. So you went out to Bethel and
yes.
to Antioch, which is a little village just outside of Bethel.
You know, people say it's little, but apparently Antioch's the nicest village. So they say you don't really know the village until you go out beyond Antioch. So yeah, I guess I have to go back and see what the actual villages look like there.
And was the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta more or less what you expected, or was it a surprise?
I actually went with no expectations because I've heard such negative things about Bethel. So because my expectations were zero, everything that I encountered there was phenomenal because I had no expectation. But even if I had an expectation, I think they would have been surpassed just because the community and the health providers there are unbelievably passionate and caring and kind to all the citizens there. So
Great.
It was good.
So what did you do while you were there?
Oh man, so Gregory coordinated everything and he literally got us in every clinic that they have in the White K. So then we got a taste of every little health facility that was in Bethel, which was crazy. And Antioch's small, so we toured the whole facility and talked to pretty much every department within Antioch too, which was really cool to see how it differed between there and Bethel. So yeah.
Cool. Did you have any free time?
I did. I had lots of free time. And I think in the beginning, I didn't know how to utilize that free time well because we had no Wi-Fi, we had no signal, we had no cable. There was literally nothing there. And usually the weather's not super nice either. So whenever the weather was nice, we went berry picking because once you go out, you can literally step anywhere in the tundra and it'll just be full of berries and there's no one to tell you can't get it and berries are expensive. So we spent 2-3 hours berry picking and time goes by super fast when you do that. And I think before I went to Bethel, I didn't have an appreciation for outdoor activities because there's so much more you can do in the city. But after going out to rural Alaska and having to actually do those outdoor activities for fun, I fell in love and I don't think there's anything more exciting to do than outdoor activities now. So yeah.
Right. So after the Bethel trip, you came back to Anchorage for a couple of days, and you had a one-day job shadow here in the big city.
Yeah.
Was that very different?
It was very different because surprisingly, I got to meet a lot of behavioral health aides. So to hear, and they're kind of the mental health people of rural Alaska, and I shadowed at a mental health clinic. So to see small community mental health versus larger city mental health, it was just crazy because the reaction that the providers have towards their patients are just so different because in the small communities, everyone knows everyone, so then the provider is very limited in what they can do and they become exhausted pretty fast. So it's a very demanding position, whereas in Anchorage, there's so many different settings that you can practice rural health in. And so my caseworker that I was assigned with, we only really focus on assisted living homes. So to see one person just taking care of one aspect of mental health was really interesting because for the past 10 days in rural Alaska, they had to cover everything and they definitely didn't have as much training as the people here. So that was really interesting to see. Mm-hmm.
And before you went out to Bethel, we had a few days in Anchorage and then a few days in Seward. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in that part of the trip that really stands out?
I think the best part about that was just being surrounded by like-minded people. And compared to the first day to the last day we were together, it's crazy how fast everyone bonded because I think every single one of us really enjoyed our rural experience, and because we had that to bond over, like even on our last day in Bethel, we were super excited to go back. Even though it's bittersweet, we were really excited to go back just so we can hear what the stories that people were going to bring back were going to be about. So I think being in Seward and Anchorage beforehand just really helped us connect, but on a level that you can only achieve in Alaska because of the outdoor activities and stuff. So I think it was a good way to bond without like minimal like distractions with our cell phones and like social media. So that was really nice.
Great. So do you have any advice for future RIIN students?
I think everyone, especially on the West Coast, I guess East Coast too, because my partner was from East Coast. I think everyone should be exposed to it at least once, because as I was filling out my medical school secondary applications, all my West Coast schools asked about rural medicine. And if you don't have any experience with it, it would be really hard to answer it. So even if it's not something that you see for yourself, I think it's good to be exposed to it, so that if you are going to be applying to schools that are meant for rural health, you can either apply to all of those or eliminate those and save it for people who actually want to go into rural medicine. Because I think it'd be a waste to go into a school that's all about rural medicine, but you're not even interested in it or have never experienced it. So yeah, I think everyone should experience it at least once. And I mean, you get to come to Alaska, which is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, so yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
So any last words?
Yes, even if you're from Anchorage or from Alaska, I highly recommend it, because Alaska is such a huge state that I didn't even think that there would be places in Alaska where there were no mountains. So it was almost like being in the Midwest of Alaska, just because the geography was just completely different and the people were completely different. So even if you grew up in Alaska and knew Alaska all your life, I definitely recommend it, especially even more, because it breaks a lot of the stigmas that you know about Alaska. So yeah, definitely recommend it.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.